Well, howdy do, everyone. It's another day, it's another dollar, and here we are at the coffee break, and I got a story to share with you. I want to get right to it because I don't know what brought this to my mind. I think it had something to do with the video I did the other day that spoke to the idea of someone smoking weed around me at the DMV. But I remember a story of a trip I took to Texas. And I go to Texas every year and a half or so for a job or something like that. So I was driving to Texas and I was on my way to this job. It was a day job. It was, something you had to be there on time for, be prepared for, etc. and so on. Anyway, I went on this job and I was driving down to Texas. And I'd already gotten all the way up to Amarillo, and I was now going to cut down from Amarillo down towards Wichita Falls. Anyway, I'm driving in a rental car, and I'm heading down toward Wichita Falls, and I'm driving a little above the speed limit, okay? You know that when you're on highway drives, doing road trips and what have you, you're going to have a little bit of a grace above the speed limit. So if the speed limit's 70, a lot of people will go at least 75. It's pretty normal and it's usually acceptable by most of the law enforcement out there. So that's exactly what I was doing. And all these vehicles were passing me with Texas license plates, and they're going faster than 75 miles per hour. I'm not thinking much about that, but I am going 75 miles an hour, which was above the speed limit. But I want to be safe. I want to make sure I get to where I'm going without any incident. And I'm conscientious of the fact that I need to follow some rules on the road, right? We all do this. Anyway, I'm driving, and this vehicle, this big truck, flies past me. And I'm going 75 miles per hour. So I am over the speed limit technically. And I see this police officer, state trooper, and he comes after me. And he decides to pull me over. Now, here's the thing. I am driving a rental car, and that rental car has out-of-state tags on it from West Virginia. And I look like Mr. Caveman here, hippie, bohemian, whatever, homeless guy. So he can see me as I'm passing by, and he pulls out and he eventually pulls me over. Okay. So we go through the routine. I make sure I let him know I have a rental car, so it's a little more complicated when you can't pull out your registration. Give him my driver's license and my rental contract. And he proceeds to tell me that I am going over the speed limit, even though all the other vehicles were passing me probably at 80, 85 miles per hour, because I'm driving 75. I'm driving over the speed limit, which technically I was, so I conceded to that, no problem. But I also explained to him that the reason I was going that speed was because I understood there was a grace, and that you could go a little bit above the speed limit when you're traveling on highways and freeways, and as long as you're not exceeding a certain limit, usually 5 miles per hour, is usually acceptable in most states. Well, he proceeded to tell me that in Texas, they don't do it that way. You either go exactly the speed limit, so if it's 70, it's got to be 70, or you're considered speeding and will be pulled over and ticketed. I didn't bother to tell him that all the vehicles that were passing by at 80, 85 miles per hour were not being stopped and ticketed. And I just went ahead and accepted what he had to say and said I understood. And it wasn't my intention to cause any ruckus. Now, this police officer was a nice man. He wasn't trying to be rude or caustic or pushy or too authoritative in such a way that you would be concerned. But he was picking me out of a crowd, and I knew that. But I was just being nice. He asked all those questions. Where are you going? I'm going off to do a movie, and I have a day job there, and I need to be there tomorrow. And I'm off to Wichita Falls for the night. And he asked me to come and sit in his vehicle, his cruiser. So I went back to the cruiser. I sat there with me, and he was running my plates and running my driver's license to see what my history was, to see if I was a bad dude or a bad guy or someone on the run with a warrant or something like that. You know how they do it. But I was sitting in the cruiser with him while he was doing this, and he continued the conversation to ask me questions like, do I do drugs? I don't think that normally would be a conversation if I didn't look the way I look, okay? So I get profiled a lot, by the way, and I have plenty of stories about being discriminated against and experiencing prejudice because the way I look. I know I'm a white man, and that might be a little difficult for some people to understand or comprehend that someone like me could be discriminated against, but it is true. Because I look like a caveman, as I say, and I could be on drugs, I could be a homeless guy, you know, whatever. It's part of the look, I guess. Anyway, I told him, no, I don't do drugs, and I proceeded to extrapolate on that a little bit, even though I didn't really need to do this. I did tell him that I understood what drugs were about. I don't do drugs. I've never done drugs. My mom was addicted to opiates, and that got the best of her, and I learned not to do drugs from her. He said, have you ever smoked marijuana? I'm like, no, I've never smoked marijuana. And then here's where the story kicks in. He proceeded to tell me that he had reason to believe that I had marijuana in the vehicle, some kind of drug, because it smelled. And I immediately thought, wow, is that possible that the previous renter on my rental vehicle could have possibly smoked marijuana in the vehicle and maybe even left something in there and I didn't know about it? I guess it is a possibility, but certainly I did tell him that it was a rental vehicle and I can't be responsible for previous renters, and I certainly didn't smell any marijuana getting into the vehicle, and I know what marijuana smells like. So, but I couldn't help but think that maybe a remnant of something could be left in the vehicle that I didn't know about. So he told me that he was going to search my vehicle, that he had the right to do that because he thought it smelled like I could have had marijuana in there. It might have been new car smell for all I know. I proceeded to say, okay, no problem. He asked me to get out of the cruiser and go stand up on the hill right beside the highway, a fair distance so I wouldn't be too close to the vehicle. And I could just watch him do what he was going to do. And he said, is there anything you need to tell me before I search the vehicle? Anything in that vehicle that I need to be aware of? And I said, well, I know I have a paring knife because I had cucumber in there I was going to peel and eat later. That's going to really hurt someone. And I told him I also had some vitamins. Because I did. I had some vitamins with me, and that might be considered a drug. I don't know. But I tried to remember everything that I packed for the trip, and those are the things that came to mind. So he proceeded to search the vehicle. And he took everything out, and he was searching through all my duffel bags and went through my ice chest. And I mean, he went through everything. And the one thought that came through my mind through this whole process was, what if this is one of those bad cops that decides to slip something in and plant drugs on my car? And then I'd end up going to jail, and I'd be up a creek without a paddle because I wouldn't know what to do, and I wouldn't make it to my job, and all these things were going through my mind as I was watching him from the side of the road. And I was just hoping and praying that that didn't happen. As it turns out, he didn't find anything, of course, and he didn't do anything to put me in harm's way or to try to take me to jail anyway. So I'm sure I was a disappointment to him. But in any case, he just gave me a warning. He didn't give me a ticket, and he sent me on my way and told me to stay the speed limit in Texas. So that's my funny story I wanted to share with you. I got stopped and searched for marijuana and all that, and wow, what an experience. I'll never forget. Now, I've been to Texas since, and I've driven, and as soon as I hit Texas, I make sure I try to go the speed limit. Exactly. So let that be a lesson to you. Unless you get stopped because you have out-of-state tags, and then they're going to search your vehicle and say you might have drugs on you, and then be hauled off to jail. Don't want any of that happening, right? Hey, if you like this vehicle, give me a like this vehicle. Darn. If you like this video, give me a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification button. Share this video with others, and I'll try to come up with a few good stories to share with you down the road. And come join me next time on our coffee break. And until then, have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.